watching Kenya's third most preferred TV station. This is Switch TV News at 7. I am Lincoln Wambogo. Our sign language interpreter is Tracy Dorcas, and these are the top stories. "3,000 sheep and goats slaughtered in Kiamaiko market and distributed to different counties in the country as Muslim faithfuls across the world celebrate EID-UL-ADHA festival in style. Universities could soon be blocked from admitting diploma and certificate courses in a review of college programs. Agony as South B business owners and residents decry losses and high cost of living as power outage enters week 4. Glad you're watching. Send in your feedback and comments to our SMS line 111 on our social media handles at Switch TV Kenya and at Lincoln Wambogo. Our 30 minutes of the broadcast begins now. Muslim faithfuls in different parts of the world and the country have today celebrated EID-UL-ADHA festival in style, commemorating what they call Abraham's obedience to Allah, agreeing to offer his only son. The celebrations were marked in company of heavy fists and prayers. Robert Omer with the details.
Eid-al-Adha, also known as the Feast of Sacrifice, is celebrated by the Muslim faithfuls in remembrance of Ibrahim, act of faith, agreeing to offer his son for sacrifice as commanded by Allah. This day marks the end of Hajj, the 7-day pilgrimage Muslims undertake to cleanse their souls of sin and instill sense of equality and brotherhood. Muslims around the world have today met in mosques and have celebrated and are continuing to celebrate this day in a special way. Prayers, a wholesome feasting. Elsewhere in Nairobi's Kiamaiko market, a total of 3,000 sheep and goats were slaughtered and distributed to different parts of the counties in the country for sharing.
Wanyama hao 3,000 tumegawa katika sehemu tofauti za nchi yetu ya Kenya, na malengo yetu ya leo kuchinja wanyama hao 3,000 ni kusherehekea pamoja na wale ambao hawakubahatika kama maskini, mafukara, wajane, mayatima, ili hii siku yetu ya leo tusherehekee sote kwa pamoja na kwa furaha.
Sana kwa kuchinja aidha mnyama wote, mbuzi, kondoo, ngamia. Na inshallah natakia tu Waislamu wote Eid Mubarak. Na vile vile pia waweze kujivinjari na waweze kuangalia kanuni na masharti ya COVID, waweze kujikinga inshallah.
With reference to the Quran, this day is not just a day of feasting to the Muslim brethren. It is a day of giving more than taking, sharing, but more importantly, being compassionate to the less fortunate in the society. Robert Omer, Switch TV in Nairobi.
Thank you, Robert Omer. What a way to celebrate Eid Mubarak to our Muslim brothers and sisters. Political formations continue taking shape in the country 13 months to the 2022 general elections, with One Kenya Alliance officials attending a whole day-long meeting led by the party's officials, including Musalia Mudavadi of ANC, Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper, Gideon Moi of KANU and Moses Wetangula of Food Kenya. The leaders have discussed the status of the party after alleged shaky relations. Meanwhile, Deputy President William Ruto, who continues to boast a lack of a suitable competitor in the race to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta, has again ridiculed his opponents for not having a solid plan to sell to Kenyans ahead of the 2022 polls. The Deputy President further dismissing plans to change the constitution through the BBI, saying the bill is only power-centered and not people-oriented.
We are changing the conversation, and that is why the traditional politicians are having a problem. They don't know how to organize themselves. They've known to organize themselves around tribes, around power, around positions. Now we are telling them, no, we need to organize ourselves around the people, around the economy, around opportunity, and around empowerment. That is the change in conversation that is causing confusion in the political arena. Mkisoma gazeti ya leo, all the newspapers today wanasema kuna hali ya taharuki kule kwa kiwanja. Watu hawajui ni left, sijui ni right, sijui tuungane na hawa, sijui tuungane na wale. In short, Kimeumana.
Still on matters politics, former Prime Minister RAILA Odinga has continued his tour in the coast region today, stopping by Kilifi County where he accused Deputy President William Ruto of alleged graft, which he splashes out to churches and fundraisers. The ODM leader has further drummed up support for the BBI initiative as it continues to await the Court of Appeal ruling on 20th of August.
Ndio pesa unaona mtu mwingine amebeba kwa gunia, anakuja nazo, anatembea zuru naye. Kila mara kwa mara anasema mimi nataka kufanya harambee kwa vikundi ya kina mama. Anakuja na vikundi ya pesa. Vikundi ya vijana kuja na pesa. Shule pale amenunua basi anakuja na anaweka huko. Kanisa amekuja na gunia ameingia na pesa ndani ya kanisa. Ati mimi ni mtu mcha Mungu sana. Mimi najua ati Luka ile BBI ambayo tulileta ilikuwa ni kujaribu kusawazisha maendeleo katika taifa letu, kumaliza ubaguzi ya kikabila katika taifa letu.
Jana nilikuwa nasikia wanatupiga ati hawa wanataka kubadilisha katiba ili wapate vio. Bwana wanazunguka hapa Kilifi kama watafuti cheo. Aende akae kwake huko Sugoi.
Away from politics, the Education Ministry has proposed that diploma and certificate courses to be reserved for mid-level colleges. Universities could soon be blocked from admitting diploma and certificate courses to students in a review of college programs. Flora Limuki with his story.
The Ministry of Education has proposed to cut off diploma and certificate courses from being offered in public universities. The move, according to education experts, is set to deal a blow to public and private universities since the collapse of Module 2 courses, which pushed them to rely on diploma and certificate courses to generate revenue.
These other courses also help and generate some good funds that can service them, can service certain core functions of the university.
This comes at a time when universities are in the process of restructuring to cut costs and increase efficiency after the International Monetary Fund identified them as one of the public bodies earmarked for reforms due to poor financial standing. According to Boaz Waruki, an education expert, the move to cut diploma and certificate students will make the education sector an elite field cut off for the chosen few in the country.
His actions definitely has got an effect of creating a class society. Of course, Kenya is a class society, but enhancing it to the level that an elite club at the top would be the one controlling everything and everybody's opinion and thought.
This proposal by the Ministry of Education to cut off diploma courses from being offered in public universities comes at a time when technical courses are on high demand in the country. Flora Limuki, Switch TV.
Thank you, Flora Limuki. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has warned management of public universities against arbitrary reforms in their institutions without consulting relevant government bodies. The Cabinet Secretary further citing that Kenyans should get value for their money. Shilling Teach with the details.
Speaking at the Odera Kango campus in Yala town, while Moi University Council was handing it over officially to Maseno University, the Cabinet Secretary insisted that neither him nor the President has delegated the mandate of reforming the institutions of higher learning to the chairman of the University Councils nor the Vice Chancellors.
All the councils and all the Vice Chancellors, the university does not belong to you, Professor Nyabundi. It belongs to the state of Kenya. It does not belong to you, Professor Kosgei. It belongs to the state of Kenya. So if you are going to transform it, please transform it, referring to Q if you are going to touch the legal instruments.
This response comes after Nairobi University tried to abolish some offices and faculties and increased fees, a move that was halted by the government.
Ensure that there is value for money, because Kenyans don't say the truth about money. There's always leakage. And that leakage we can't afford. And I'm not pointing a finger at anybody. But I don't trust anybody as far as money is concerned, because of what I've seen. So if next time you have 40 million to spend here, call me, I will come and supervise them for you, to ensure that we get actual value for money.
at the CS, challenging the institutions to move towards the internationally accepted standards of 70% academic staff and 30% non-academic. At the same time, blasting Kenyan universities for wasting money through bloated non-academic staff.
If you want to, for example, right size, which is the right thing to do, involve everybody. There are many things you can do on your own, like ensuring that moving towards the acceptable international standard of 70% academic staff and 30% non-academic staff.
Magoha, known for his hands-on approach, said he had been forced to go slow on public universities following an amendment to the Universities Act that made the cabinet secretary a ceremonial head. Shilangetich, Switch TV.
Thank you, Shilangetich. Moving on, Kenyan authorities failed to design a social security program that will guarantee everyone and not just a few an adequate standard of living during the pandemic, according to a report released today by the Human Rights Watch. The report also denotes huge discrepancies in the manner in which money set aside for cushioning the vulnerable was spent. David Kagina with more.
According to the report released today, dubbed Kenya's pandemic cash transfer program riddled with irregularities, compiled by the Human Rights Watch, only a small fraction of vulnerable families in Kenya benefited from the program, which was characterized by lack of transparency, cronyism, nepotism, and outright favoritism, with the government failing to follow the stated selection criteria or to share information that should have enabled more vulnerable families to enroll.
They did not even know that there was a cash transfer program going on. Why? Because the government officials who are tasked with the implementation of this program decided to do it secretly. Decided to do it very secretly. And when we asked them why is it secret, they said the number of slots they got, the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Labor who are managing this cash transfer had given them were very few. And the people who needed support were very many, and they could not afford to announce it.
President Uhuru Kenyatta on 23rd May announced that he had allocated 10 billion Kenyan shillings to specifically caution the vulnerable households, targeting those from the informal settlements.
So for Nairobi alone, the government says it supported only 29,000 households. If you look at that figure, it comes to just about 4.8% of the 600,000 households that needed support.
There are people who got the cash transfer in different phases. Some got 1,000 for 1 month. Others got the 1,000 once per week for 3 months. And there are others who didn't get, like me.
According to a report released earlier this year by the Financial Transparency Coalition, 92% of COVID-related funds in Kenya went to big corporations, neglecting millions of people who have been pushed into poverty. It also indicated that the $50 million released by the World Bank in immediate funding to support Kenya's COVID-19 emergency response projects, arguably these loans were used by the government to pay government debts and to fund government expenditure on the onset of the pandemic.
Families that qualified as having high poverty index, but they were not benefiting from the other existing cash transfer programs, like the Inua Jamii, which started in 2003, and the Hunger Safety Net. So that was the criteria. There was no, the program did not have a gender dimension, saying how many households are headed by women. I think that was not there. What was the other aspect?
For selection, the government's project to cushion the vulnerable was a big flop as compared to the initial projections of 35 installments per household. Only 3 to 4 installments were available per household. David Kagina, Switch TV, Nairobi.
With David Kagina's story, we now take a short commercial break. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more. welcome back and thank you for keeping it Switch TV. Government pathologists today kicked off the process of collecting DNA samples from the victims of the weekend fire incident at Gem-Alanga in Siaya County as the death toll rises to 17 after 2 more people succumbed at the Siaya County Referral Hospital. According to the Siaya County Executive Committee member for Health, Dismiss Wakler, the pathologists took samples from the remains of the 13 people who succumbed on Saturday. He says the samples were taken at Yala Sub-County Hospital, where the charred remains were taken for preservation, adding that the team was also able to take samples of 15 kinsmen of the deceased. Wakler said the 2 who succumbed today had sustained more than 50% burns. Meanwhile, Siaya County government will give a waiver for the hospital bills for those currently hospitalized, plus a mortuary fees for those who succumbed. Elsewhere, business owners in South B, Nairobi County have been highly affected by lack of power since Kenya Power sanctioned a crackdown of illegal connections in the area, leading to a number of transformers being disconnected. The cost of living has gone up due to the lack of power that has left residents in turmoil. Scott Muriuki with more on the story.
It has been roughly a month since Kenya Power disconnected 4 transformers in the larger South B area of Nairobi County, leaving business owners lamenting due to the effects caused to their businesses and lives. A lot of businesses in the area are reliant on electricity, with the move by Kenya Power forcing residents to source for alternative sources of power, mainly solar energy, at their own expense. This has in turn forced them to increase the prices of various goods and services to make up for the extra expenses.
Tumejaribu tukanunua solar panel na battery na inverter ndio at least tuendeleze biashara yetu.
Moreover, insecurity has also become a matter of concern due to the power outage, with gangs in the area taking advantage of the darkness due to the lack of power to rob residents. This has brought about fear in business owners who have now been forced to close up shop earlier than they were used to, leading to losses.
Security kama kuna mwenzetu alipoteza maisha kupitia kwa hiyo giza, waizi walimfamia kwa nyumba na akapata kuzikwa kwa saina, imechukua kitu kama mwezi mmoja. Sasa tumehofia hata mambo na kufunga. Tunafunga mapema, tunaenda kwa nyumba sababu ya giza kwa barabara tukitembea.
A number of businesses have been forced to close due to the inability to keep up with the rising costs, with others having to change their business ventures so as to cope with the challenges brought about by the lack of power. Residents have complained that prices of basic day-to-day foodstuffs have gone up in the area due to the effects of the power outage, in turn causing essential services such as transport to increase.
Nimebidi nifungue nyanya. Juu sasa M-Pesa ifanye kazi. Nifungue nyanya, niuze kitunguu. Ndio nipata hadi shilingi 2.
Stima zote imeharibu kila kitu.
Kama nini sasa kwa
kama unaona nyama kwa quarter ilikuwa 100, sasa ni 120. Haya, hii chungu hata hii dania ama kitunguu ilikuwa 5, sasa ni 10 bob. Tunatoa wapi sisi maasila bwana?
There has also been lack of pumped water that a lot of businesses rely on. This has become yet another extra expense various businesses have had to incur, with a couple stating that they will be forced to close shop soon since they are operating on debts.
Kaa 1 full month without water. Maji hatuna, maji haiwezi kuja bila stima. Unaona? Unanunua kibuyu ni shilingi 5, sasa ni 15 bob. Then unaenda kupanga laini. Unafikiwa maji imeisha, ate pressure, ate stima hakuna, pressure iko chini.
A lot of businesses have been affected in this area in South B, with business owners urging the government to intervene and help them to be able to save their profits as well as secure the area. This is Scott Muriuki, Switch TV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Scott Marioki. Elsewhere, the long-running corruption trial of former South African President Jacob Zuma, who is currently serving a 15-month prison term related to a separate charge, has been again postponed. Judge Pete Coyne said this after Zuma appeared virtually in the Pietermaritzburg High Court. The trial will be adjourned until 10th or 13th of August. Zuma faces 16 charges of fraud, corruption and racketeering related to the 1999 purchase of fighter jets, patrol boats and military gear from 5 European arms firms when he was deputy president. Zuma's legal team cited the unrest as well as the ravages of the coronavirus pandemic as they petitioned for the delay. They argued the defendant had a right to appear in person during the trial. From the business desk, technologists believe virtual and augmented reality could be the next major platform for everything from gaming to social interaction and perhaps even global diplomacy. Apollo James explains.
These days we spend a lot of time looking at screens. Computers, smartphones and televisions are a big part of our lives. They are how we get most of our news, use social media, watch movies and more. Virtual reality and augmented reality are two technologies changing the way we use screens, creating new and exciting interactive experiences. Virtual reality, also known as VR, uses a headset with a built-in screen that displays a virtual environment for you to explore. These headsets use a technology called head tracking, which allows you to look around the environment by simply moving your head. Augmented reality or AR is a bit different. Instead of transporting you to a virtual world, it takes digital images and layers them on the real world around you. This is done through the use of either a clear visor or a smartphone. So with VR, you could explore a world full of dinosaurs. But with AR, you could see those dinosaurs moving through the world around you. Both of these technologies are growing at a rapid pace and being implemented in a variety of different ways. Surgeons are using VR to practice highly technical surgeries before operating. Businesses are using them to give consumers virtual tours of products and locations. There are even apps that can use your smartphone's camera to scan and translate foreign language in real time. As they continue to grow, VR and AR have the potential to greatly change almost every industry. You'll want to keep an eye on them to see how they might soon affect your job and potentially your everyday life. Apollo James, Switch TV.
Thank you, Apollo James. With the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country last year, the events industry took a big hit, sending many event organizers and planners home. However, some event organizers changed from the usual mass events to luxury events, and such is the case of Karen Lusike, who started her event organizing business in 2019 only for COVID to strike. In an interview with our business reporter Brian Mwende, the event planner talks about the process of organizing a luxury event and what has kept this type of business afloat during the COVID-19 pandemic period.
Now, what differentiates luxury events from the simple setup events?
Simple setup is what guys used to do back then before production of other things started. It, for example, a luxury event has a full table setup, including flowers, glasses, cutlery, charger plates and whatnot. But a simple setup just has a plain table and a runner. Like, it was very simple. The way the name is, very simple. It didn't have basic details. The luxury event has very basic details. Clients are specific. It has customized things, customized water, customized candy. It all depends on what the client demands. But the simple setup is as simple as the name. Just like, for example, let me use an example of a tent. You will find, like, back then guys used to just come with a normal tent and repeat, but these days they use a tent, like for example a B-line or an A-frame. It's all set, like it's all complete. You don't have to do anything more. You just have to bring the tent, it's just there. It's already a luxurious tent.
What's the cost implication of you narrowing down to quality above mass?
Okay, so quality actually matters a lot, because You know, you can't sell quality at a cheaper price, if that makes sense. So everything about luxury events is charged differently. From a normal, you know, let me use an example. If you want, if a client wants a plastic seat and someone wants a luxe chair, it's different. Also sourcing stuff, like flowers, you have to get the right color, you have to get good flowers. You have to, maybe if you don't have something, you have to hire out. You have to also plan logistics from wherever you are to the occasion. There's a lot that happens behind the scenes. Actually, delivering the event is an easy task. The planning is what is actually very demanding to an event planner.
From the sports desk, Kenya Sevens coach Innocent Simiyu believes his boys have savored a very productive week in the run-up to their opening Olympic march against USA